Jive 5 Jeff from Two Hacks Garage. Well, I had a whole lot of fun in Kansas City over the weekend. I went and visited Jed from Scott's Speed Shop. Awesome shit. Went to World of Wheels, visited with Pole Barn Garage, had some laughs, had some fun. Kyle was in Indy at a motocross race. He's an avid rider. Even as kids, always had dirt bikes, always had fun. So what are we doing? Well, we're going to do kind of a hack tip of the day. We got ourselves a sandblaster for the Hack Shack. Kyle's made some modifications to this to make it just a little bit more effective, efficient, to get the job done better. So what I'm going to have him do is go ahead and explain what he's done, and we're going to give a little tutorial on something. It's basically going to be, reuse older parts. Our friend Todd, who's got Project Z, he wants to reuse the original air cleaner, so we're going to sandblast that up so we can get it painted. So Kyle, what did you do to this here?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about our latest shop tool, and now we have a blast cabinet. This one is just a Harbor Freight. They have two versions of it, the non-leg one and the one with legs. Of course, we wanted legs because, we don't want to use up all our bench space with something this size. The hack tips we're going to talk about, really, it's nothing new. We didn't reinvent the wheel. These are things that I found that other people had shared that they had done to theirs. So you can find these tips elsewhere, probably even find more tips than what I'm going to talk about today. But what I can share is this video isn't going to need to be 20 minutes long walking through all those tips. This is the latest cabinet. So in many ways, Harbor Freight or whoever does the modification, some of these have already been done compared to some of the older videos, and you don't have to do to the extent. I think the ones that we're going to talk about are a couple of them I would consider more critical. The ones that I recommend for probably every one of these cabinets, being that this is the Harbor Freight, then it's not it's kind of your bang for the buck for cabinets. So one of the first things I did and let me just warn you folks, if you buy this, if you can somehow convince Harbor Freight to sell you the floor model, which I never have been able to, this would be the ticket to do it. Putting this thing together is like assembling IKEA furniture with just, you can see all these tiny little screws, washers, nuts that are spread out about every 3 inches or so. And it's a time-consuming process. But one of the things is caulking along all the seams on the inside. Anywhere that would normally be exposed, Harbor Freight does give you a foam tape to line, and you do have to do some of the lining yourself, but I think that would separate after a while, but the caulk will hold up. So give yourself some caulk and seal up all your seams. One of the other things I read to do that I'm just going to say you probably won't have to do if you're buying the newer one, some folks were needing to make their suction better on the end of the gun here that goes down into your media. Now on the newer models, they've already improved that the suction piece of it, and you don't have to drill the holes and try to improve the airflow and the jams that were occurring. So that is one of the benefits to the newer one. The other thing, I read in a comment that someone had this pin on the hinge pop off. So what I've done here is taken some safety wire, tightened it up to really squeeze that pin so it doesn't come out. I also tried to clamp it a little bit more because it was sitting kind of on the edge. So I could see how that might happen to some. This was already pre-assembled. I didn't have to do this, but not a bad idea to do the safety wire, especially because that happens pretty quick. Something I saw others recommending, and that's this dust deputy. My understanding is if you were to take your shop vac and hook it direct to the port here, it's going to clog your filter in a matter of minutes. But with one of these Dust Deputy Cyclones, it swirls that down into the bucket instead of clogging your filter. So as you can see, the vacuum runs to the Dust Deputy and down to, goes through that all the way back into the cabinet. Nothing fancy here. We're just running a little 3 horsepower Bauer model. To thicken up the piping on this, I just took some duct tape, wrapped it around till it fit nicely in the Dust Deputy. But you can pick this one up. I got this one on Amazon for a little over $50. I always feel good when I see this product is made in the USA too. So I always just feel good when you can buy something that's made in the USA. Surprisingly found it on Amazon and for not too bad of a price. So we are about to find out how this bad boy works, starting with Jeff's intake. I know we have, I went ahead and got some walnut, and I think this was 25 pounds of walnut and 25 pounds of glass. So we're gonna see how the medias work and see how good we can clean up this intake. Okay, so I went ahead and put some media inside the cabinet. Based on the fact that I have both walnut and glass, I think glass is going to work better for this because it is a painted surface and we're going to want to try to clean this up a little better. It's I know you can't see on the camera, but it has a little bit of even probably surface rust on it that we want to try to get this cleaned up. That way it can get some fresh paint on this lid. So I'm going to go ahead and set that in there. I've got my blast cabinet pressure set to just under 100 pounds. And let's give this a whirl. All right, let's see how we did. I can tell you there's a few things we'll cover after we inspect our job, just a few things that we learned along the ways. I would say for no more time than we spent on it, this came out pretty good. So again, we just used the glass media on it. It feels and looks much better, looks like a little bit more, and this could be ready for paint and ready for use again. Now, the couple things that I mentioned that we learned along the way, again, this is the first time we've used this cabinet, and I mentioned sealing it is important, and here's why. So one thing that we did not extra seal, this does have the foam tape around it, but you can see the glass media coming out around the edges of the glass here and also in here. So because I'm lazy and because this is just a tool, I'll probably, instead of taking this off and trying to recaulk it and conceal the caulk, I'll just come around here with a bead of clear caulk and also inside the plexiglass here to get that nice seal. So again, the media doesn't come out. I don't see it coming out anywhere else. So I think we did a good job sealing everywhere else inside the cabinet, but we do want to seal this. Other thing that I want to mention, this thing is an air pig. It's said to run it at 90 to 125, and I played around with the different pressures just to see the differences. Of course, it does make a difference. Over here, I have a Sanborn compressor. This, it's got a fairly good sized tank on it. This is 60 gallon, and running the media blaster, it will kick that thing on pretty quickly. And if you're continuously running that gun, it will run this thing down. So thankfully for me, as I'm working over here, I can see my pressure gauge. So this is two things, right, all in one. I can adjust my pressure here. And also I have this is a water separator. You don't want any water running into your media. That's gonna clog up your gun. It's not good for your other air tools either, of course, particularly the ones that you're trying to keep oiled. Obviously, you don't want anything. And if you're like me, I'm not draining this thing as often as I should. I guarantee you if I opened the petcock on the bottom of this, we would probably get a fair amount of water. And that's probably what goes out on these compressors is the tank rots out in the bottom long before many of the other parts wear out. So yeah, again, I'm happy with our tool. The vacuum worked great. The sandblaster worked great. I would just, hey, if you want to improve upon, the things that we did, hopefully the tips are helpful to you. The other thing I recommend, the bigger and more powerful the compressor, the better you're going to have, because you can just continuously go for longer. And then, like I said, we even learned a few things like adding caulk to our acrylic glass here that will prevent the media from coming outside of it. So, Jeff, anything you want to add to it?
Nope, I think we learned a few lessons on top of the ones that we already did previous to what we did on that cabinet. It's just play around with it. Like Kyle said, it's a Harbor Freight model. You're always going to modify it. There's great tips on the internet, great tips on YouTube. But you know what? For everyone that does work on these cars, having something like this really does help out in a pinch. Helps out with everything. And you know what? We have fun doing it too.
That's right.
So yeah, that's all I got.
Keep making stuff better. Even turds like this can be polished.